California. Mr. Peters for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and it's good to see you again, Administrator. Thank you so much for being here. And before I ask my questions, I just want to thank you for your leadership on the water pollution challenges at the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego. We are continuing to make progress to reduce transboundary water pollution flows into our communities, and in last year's funding bill, we included language to ensure funds from the United States-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement can support water pollution reduction projects in the Tijuana River Valley. We also secured $36 million for the Border Water Infrastructure Program. And on that note, last week, EPA and the U.S. section of the International Boundary Water Commission joined with Mexican officials to announce joint funding for 2 wastewater infrastructure projects. Those projects will reduce the risk of spilling up to 60 million gallons per day of untreated wastewater in the Tijuana River watershed. So thank you again for visiting San Diego, to see this environmental catastrophe for yourself, and for taking action to build these projects and stem the sewage flows. Today I want to talk to you about 2 of my other top priorities. One is catastrophic wildfires, and then again we've spoken about reducing superpolluting methane pollution in the past. I want to follow up on that. First, on wildfires, poor land management and climate change are funding extreme wildfires in California. Those fires are now the largest source of particulate matter air pollution in the West, and they endangered our communities, our wildlife, and our ecosystems. To address the rise of catastrophic megafire, we have to bring healthy, low-intensity fire back into Western landscapes by increasing the implementation of prescribed fire and cultural burning. Now, I support strong standards to reduce particulate matter air pollution from power plants, factories, and other traditional polluting sources. I'm concerned that the current draft rule and its accompanying regulatory impact assessment would likely result in a significant reduction in burn days at a time when our agency experts are recognizing the need to significantly increase our use of beneficial fire. I also understand that the Forest Service has raised serious concerns about the proposed rule, given that it may compromise the ability of the Forest Service to deliver on its wildfire crisis strategy. If the proposed rule is finalized, what steps will you take at EPA to ensure that beneficial fire remains a powerful tool in the toolbox to reduce the likelihood and effect of catastrophic wildfire?
Well, as I've committed to the Secretary of USDA, we have a great relationship. We talk about a whole host of issues. This is one that's on that list. Anything that we finalize will not degrade the beneficial use of controlled burns, prescribed burns, and would be able to deal with wildfires. We have the flexibility to do that. We have an exceptional events clause, and we have other authorities under the Clean Air Act that give some flexibility to these opportunities and operations. And so I'll continue to talk with USDA. My team will continue to talk with the Forest Service, and we'll be sure that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can protect public health and preserve this tool.
That's great. I think that's really important to have the big picture, because sometimes the regulations intended for something like a power plant are just going to apply the same way to some other setting, particularly here with the burning that we do need.
Sure.
On methane, last year Congress created a methane emissions reduction program, which includes a methane fee and $1.5 billion to reduce methane emissions from oil and gas operations in the United States. Mr. Administrator, how does EPA plan to spend this money to maximize methane emissions reductions, especially to help smaller producers and to support new advanced continuous monitoring technologies?
Well, IRA directs us to revise our greenhouse gas reporting program regulations, especially on methane that is based on empirical data. And so we're going to meet that obligation. We have an extensive outreach going on right now with the industry. It started with our proposed rule and our supplemental rule, and it's blending right in with the $1.5 billion, because those 2 programs go hand in hand. So we'll continue to gather the data, develop that process that IRA dictates, and continue with our outreach to the industry.
Thank you. And some of my Republican colleagues have raised concern about the implementation of the methane fee. I think they've raised good questions in good faith. I'd like to give you an opportunity to address it. Can you update us how EPA plans to implement the program in a science-based and effective manner?
Well, science drives everything that we do. And again, it goes back to the answer I just gave. We have a greenhouse gas reporting program, regulations to ensure that the reporting is based on data. So data and science will drive this opportunity. And listen, I think the industry advocated for these resources for a reason, and we understand what that reason is. That's to help with technology and mitigation. So we're going to be sure that we do that. We want to honor the full intent of that $1.5 billion in IRA.
Great, I appreciate that. I'm sure my colleagues who represent the industry appreciate it as well. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes gentlelady from Tennessee.